Secretary Pete Hegseth has already made significant changes to cutting waste and streamlining efficiency at the Pentagon. Still, a department tradition of spending a significant amount of the yearly budget in the last fiscal month remains. It's known as use it or lose it. Last September 2024 alone, the Pentagon spent over $79 billion on contracts and grants. CEO of the Open Books, John Hart, is here to discuss it with us today. John, this appears to happen regardless if the administration is right or left leaning. And furthermore, the spending is much of the time not for warfighting or readiness purposes. Explain to our viewers why and how this happens every year.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Let me explain what this is. So at the end of every fiscal year, which happens at the end of September in the federal government, there is a use it or lose it problem, where federal bureaucrats and agency heads, they decide that in order to avoid their spending getting cut the next year, they literally will throw money out the door to make sure it looks like they've spent all the money budgeted to them. So they don't have the flexibility of carrying the money over to the next year or putting it in a different account. And it's a complicated question of how that's done. Look, if it's possible to pause spending on unnecessary foreign aid, we should also pause spending on things like, let's not spend $16 million on lobster tail at the end of the fiscal year, or buy ribeye steaks or office furniture that the Pentagon doesn't need. And look, and in fairness to this administration, this has been going on for a long, long time, and neither party is innocent. So since 2008, we've crunched the numbers and shown that at the end of every fiscal year, DoD spends twice as much as the norm in every September. So the last year was one of the worst on record, where in the last 5 days, we actually spent, under the Biden administration, $33 billion in just 5 days.
Yeah, so you mentioned lobster and furniture. Tell us about some of the more egregious line item expenditures that you've seen.
Yeah, well, so for example, last year we spent $6.1 million on lobster tail, okay? $16 million on ribeye steaks, and $211 million on furniture. And I actually testified before the House DOGE committee is that the federal government has a huge problem with buying furniture for buildings that are often empty. Again, to the Secretary's credit, he has called for eliminating and redirecting more than $50 billion of spending within the Pentagon. And this is one of the more important and frankly easier things to fix.
Right. You know, that kind of leads into my next question about how the Secretary of War can make these changes. I mean, is this sort of an ethos thing that more intangibly trickles down, or can Hegseth actually make concrete changes? What are you calling for?
What Congress needs to do is to give the Secretary more discretion to say that if you reach the end of the fiscal year and it turns out that the priorities have shifted, he needs to have more discretion under his authority to redirect scarce taxpayer dollars towards fundamental important missions, towards high priority missions. And again, we've seen this process unfold already this year where Secretary Rubio refused to direct taxpayer dollars to some USAID projects. And what I'm arguing is that if Rubio has the authority to pause certain foreign aid projects, then Secretary Hegseth also has the authority to not order lobster tail or ribeye steak at the end of the year, and really to tell people underneath him to not do that, because he's not going to be the one filling that order. But if he doesn't provide clear direction and clear standards, then he really is running the risk of DoD just operating like they've always operated, which is very wasteful in the month of September.
Well, CEO of Open the Books, John Hart, speaking with us today. Thank you so much for being here.
Happy to do it. Thanks for having me.